guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing my September reading wrap-up. Quick disclaimer, I will not be including any of the books that I finished for Not So Scary-a-thon during the last few days of September. There will be a separate Not So Scary-a-thon wrap-up that will come up after the readathon's over with everything because I'm reading quite a bit. So this is just going to be all the books that I read in September before the readathon started on the 26th, and I got through quite a few things. And all of these reads are going to be fall, Halloween related in some way. I was able to do that, so that was really great as well, which will be the same for October. The only book I physically read, and I was trying not to push myself to physically read too much because I wanted to do that during the readathon, was Dark and Hollow Places by Carrie Ryan. This is the final book in the Forest of Hands and Teeth trilogy. I'm not sure how I felt about this. I did the audios for the first two. This one took me a while to get through. This is kind of a slower series, like all the books are pretty slow burn. And it was kind of strange because the first book follows different characters than the second book. This book follows the same characters that are in the second book. So while the first one doesn't entirely connect, it's just in the same world, the second and the third one do. So I thought that was a really weird choice. I feel like they should all connect or all be separate. So you definitely should probably read them in order. This is a zombie novel. I talked about the last wrap up as well because I read the first two last month. Not super fast paced or intense. This one's a little bit more gory and intense than the other ones, like very mild though. And it's got kind of like a village vibe. There's like these compounds and they try to like basically survive against the dead. This one has some weird stuff in it that I didn't love, with just like how dark and people get when things are dark and gloomy. The ending was kind of strange. I think I'm giving this a 3-star. I was at first thinking I was gonna like it better than the other ones, but I think the second one is actually my favorite. So I still recommend this series, especially if you like zombie style reads and you don't want to be like super scared, but not my favorite. But I did finish a series, so proud of myself. Okay, so then for the audiobooks, I will put the narrators down here so you guys can see. So I listened to Paranormalcy and Supernaturally first. This is part of a paranormal young adult trilogy. I had the pleasure of meeting Kirsten White a couple years ago and I really enjoyed her. She's just really funny and really sweet, and I've been meaning to read more of her stuff for years. I really enjoyed these first two books and I plan on reading the third one in October after the readathon. So basically there's like a paranormal agency that our main character works for. Her best friend is actually a mermaid, which is awesome. Her ex-boyfriend is a fairy slash shapeshifter. And you've got all these different paranormal things in here, like werewolves and vampires and all kinds of stuff. And people are trying to like fight them and give rules for them and kind of create a hidden society. I thought this was extremely fun. It is very, very like cheesy, old school YA. Just go into it knowing that it's not going to be like the most amazing thing you've ever read, but it was so much fun. I particularly liked this second book as well. The audios are great. They're really quick and easy to get through. It's just a wild fun ride with all kinds of different creatures and monsters and plot twists, and I gave them both, I think, 4 stars just because I enjoyed them so much. Then I finally got to Rooms by Lauren Oliver. I've been wanting to get to this one for a while. This is, I believe, her first adult novel. Now, I love Lauren Oliver's writing style. She is just a really great writer. She sucks you in. This is like a trend that I've noticed with young adult books. I don't know if it's just because I don't read a ton of adult for this reason, but it's just very dark in the way that I don't like, where the characters are all pretty unlikable. They have traumatic pasts. There's just very traumatic things happening. I prefer my dark to be like monsters and werewolves and like demons attacking you and stuff like that versus like childhood abuse. So it's about a house, and basically the rooms are like alive and they're kind of giving their opinion on things that have happened, and you're kind of unveiling the story of this family. In my opinion, there wasn't enough to do with the rooms. There wasn't really a spooky vibe at all. It was really just kind of sad, especially the ending, and I just didn't really enjoy this. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. The narrator was really, really good and it started out really promising, but lots of trigger warnings in this one, and it just made me feel like just kind of sad, and not in a good way, if that makes sense. So I'll probably be unhauling this one, unfortunately, but I'm glad that I finally got to it. Reread Hex Hall via audiobook because I want to finish this series this fall as well. Again, as a paranormal young adult trilogy. We're following Sophie, and she is a witch, and she gets sent, I think when she's like 16, to this paranormal school, again, where there's like tons of other witches and ghosts and vampires. And she was going to a regular school before then, before something happened. And so she's at the school and she's learning about this whole world that she didn't really know a ton about, and her family's past. I really like this one. It's probably like a 3.75. I'm excited to read the next in the series. Very young adult, very high schooly, but really fun. Then I got to Jane Steele by Lindsay Faye. I'm really excited because I'm actually getting to a lot of books I've had on my list for a while. All I knew about this one is that it was adult. It was a loose retelling of Jane Eyre as a serial killer. That sounded really cool. So the first, probably like third of this book, again, was kind of dark, a little bit trauma-esque, and I was thinking that I was gonna have another like adult book fail, which is unfortunate. I just like to go on grand adventures when I read, so that's why I prefer young adult and middle grade overall. But once we get past the first third where you're learning the background on Jane's life, it turns more into a solid Jane Eyre retelling, and I absolutely loved it. The narrator for this is absolutely incredible. I highly recommend it. I think this is sitting at a 4-star because the last 2/3 saved it for me. I love the love interest in here, and just the characters, you just fall for them so hard, and I loved the Jane Eyre retelling portion so much. I wish the whole book had been more of that, because the first third I was like, ooh, is this gonna get like really dark? But it takes an amazing twist. I just really, really enjoyed this one. It is adult though, definitely with adult themes, but it's got that gothic Victorian vibe that I really love. And I originally thought this was a contemporary retelling, and it is not at all. So highly recommend, and I think it's sitting at around a 4-star. I read this book last, but I want to save another book to talk about last because I have thoughts and feelings. So I finally got to Bright Smoke, Cold Fire by Rosamund Hodge. Again, all I knew about this one is that it was Romeo and Juliet retelling with zombies, and that sounded awesome. I love Rosamund Hodge's Cruel Beauty and Crimson Bound, the retellings of Red Riding Hood and Beauty and the Beast. They're amazing. The narrator for those is absolutely incredible. So I was super excited to get into this. This one has pretty bad reviews, and I kind of understand why. It is a full-blown fantasy world with rules and things that you have to learn, so it kind of jumps right in and you're kind of getting thrown all this information at once. This is a duology, so there are 2 books in the series. I think I am going to read the next one next month. The narrator for this was decent. She wasn't like as amazing as her other narrator, but I still really liked her. I really liked the twist on the retelling portion of the Romeo and Juliet stuff. We've got Paris and all of that stuff in here, but it's definitely its own unique fantasy world with a full like magic system and everything. It's very confusing for a long time. I wound up liking it in the end, but I understand why people struggle with this one so much. I would highly recommend the audio. I feel like, unless you struggle with taking information in on audiobooks, I do better that way. Probably sitting more at a 3-star, but I still liked it overall. It just wasn't as good as I was wanting it to be, but I feel like the second one might like tie everything together. I don't know. I like the Romeo and Juliet. The writing was still really good. It was just a little bit confusing and a little bit slow at parts. So just go in knowing that. Okay, and then lastly, I want to talk about And the Trees Crept In by Dawn Katurgic. Now, I read a few of these books because I wasn't sure if I was going to like them, and I wanted to like get them off my shelf. And this is one of them. I read Dawn Katurgic's The Dead Houses, or The Dead House, last year or 2 years ago, because it had like a full immersive like journal entries and different mixed media in the book, and it was really well done, but it was very, very dark in the ways that I don't like. So I was very nervous about this one, and it looks super creepy. I did the audiobook. The narrator is phenomenal. This is one of the scariest books I've ever read. It was so scary and creepy that I almost wanted to DNF it because I was worried. It definitely is very dark and twisty in ways that I don't normally like. There's a little bit of a jump scareness. It's not like crazy, crazy scary. I'm a little bit of a baby. The audiobook makes it a lot scarier. Like there are points where there's like a old lady like rocking in a chair, and the narrator will be like, creak, creak. And so it just really creeps you out. But the characters were so interesting, and so was the story, that I kept going. So in this one, you're following two sisters and they basically arrive at their aunt's house because they're trying to escape their old life. This is set like in the early 2000s, but it very much has like an 1800s vibe to it because they're going to this house and there's like no cell service and they don't have regular like toilets and like all kinds of things. You're getting that old school vibe, which I do prefer if I'm going to read something a little bit scarier. And basically you're just following the story and you're kind of unraveling their past but also the future and what's happening at the same time. We have a little bit of an unreliable narrator situation. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of weird things that happen with the house. Definitely dark and twisty though, so I do want to heavily warn you before going into this one. It's not something I would normally recommend or like if you're wanting to read something for fall. It's very scary. It's got very like messed up parts to it. But it was done so well and the ending was really good. And I saw a couple other people say it made them cry, which they were really surprised about. But if you're really sensitive, I normally am, but for some reason this one didn't like upset me, if that makes sense. Maybe because the writing was done so well or because I did the audiobook. I did really enjoy it overall, even though it had a lot of things I don't like. I think because Dawn is just such a good storyteller and writer. So I probably will be checking out her other book just because I'm really surprised that I wound up liking this even though it's a little bit messed up. So just say you've been warned, trigger warnings, scary warnings, but you know, if you're okay with that kind of thing and you want something to kind of push your boundaries, check it out, and the audio especially. And I think that there's even a little bit of like mixed media stuff in the book as well. So her books are just very, very cool. You're getting like different journal entries and things. Just super well done. Really well done. So I think I actually gave this one 4 stars, but you've been warned. So this is the physical read that I read for September. Just the one. And then these are the audiobooks that I got to in September. Again, these do not include the Not So Scary-a-thon reads, so this picture will differ a little bit than ones I posted on Instagram. I'm not going to share my unfinished series photo because I only added that Forest of Hands and Teeth one, so I don't want to keep sharing the same photo too many times. But I think I have 23 unfinished series left, so I'm halfway, but that is not including any of the new ones that I've started. So I'll keep updating you guys, and then I will do probably a video on the unfinished series progress and then what's happening for next year towards the end of the year as well. I only finished one this month, but still doing good overall because I'm gonna really jump into more of them in November. Hopefully that's interesting. Okay, you guys, I had a really good September reading month overall, and it ended really good with Not So Scary-a-thon starting as well. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you plan on reading any of them for October or in the upcoming months. Let me know how your month of September reading went as well. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at TheBrightSideGirl for more fall and Halloween content and soon Christmas content as well. And I think that's all for now. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time on The Bright Side.